Hello, my name is Michael Tamborski, and this is my analysis of Portrait in Georgia by Toomer. Hair, braided chestnut, coiled like a lyncher's rope. Eyes, faggots. Lips, old scars or the first red blisters. Breath, the last sweet scent of cane. And her slim body, white as the ash of black flesh after flame. As can be seen, there are no typical stanzas for this poem. Instead, Toomer uses these dashed lines almost as if he is declaring a topic for that section of the poem. The words that he uses are just everyday body parts that anyone would know, like hair, eyes, lips, and even breath. He then immediately describes them through the lens of slavery and oppression, with words and expressions like lyncher's rope, scars, black flesh, and flame. These words are darker and more morbid. They're not commonplace and most likely throw up some red flags while you are reading them. Portrait in Georgia also has no rhyme scheme. Rhymes are usually used by poets to produce flow in a poem. Because there is none, it could be said that Toomer is favoring a more stop-and-start sort of poem than one that flows. This indicates that he wants each line to be really thought about. Further proof, the poem is mostly in-stopped. Except for the second to last line, I read that poets use this to first introduce a topic, and then in the next line confuse or shock the reader. In the second to last line, it reads, white as the ash. This might make you pause for a minute and question whether or not the person being described here is actually white. You read the very next line, and find out that this person was African American, and was just burned in a fire. You could tell from the very beginning that this poem wasn't going to end well. Like another poem from Toomer, it paints a darker picture of the South than what most people were probably comfortable thinking about at that time period. To further illustrate this, another poem by Toomer was analyzed. This poem is also from his book Cane and is entitled Reapers. Black reapers with the sound of steel on stones are sharpening scythes. I see them place the hones in their hip pockets as a thing that's done and start their silent swinging one by one. Black horses drive a mower through the weeds, and there a field rat, startled, squealing, bleeds. His belly close to ground, I see the blade. Bloodstained, continue cutting, weeds and shade. Unlike Portrait in Georgia, Reaper does have a rhyme scheme. And at first, this poem seems normal enough, and by that I mean that it could almost be imagined as just a bunch of farmers going out to harvest their crops. Besides the time period and the fact that they are explicitly called Black Reapers, you really can't tell that these are slaves. Then in the second part of the poem, it gets kind of gory. Using words and phrases like squealing bleeds, blade, and bloodstained. You then reread the first part of the poem and realize that there's this undercurrent of death throughout the entire poem, with words like reapers and scythes. Now, reapers are what they were called, and scythes were what they used, but Toomer could be hinting at something else. To make matters worse, Toomer uses the word his and belly to describe the rat, as if he's personifying it. Dark scenes and phrases like this show up in both Portrait in Georgia and Reapers. This is because Toomer uses his poetry as a way to get the word out about the horrible and often terrifying conditions that slaves went through. Portrait in Georgia and Reapers offer a glimpse into life at this time period for slaves. A Portrait in Georgia, however, is much more overt about it than Reapers. It's meant to be direct, and its interpretation unavoidable.